There's a type of person who walks into a room and nothing moves them. Not insults, not chaos, not someone else's bad day. They're not cold, they're not distant, they're just untouchable. And you've seen this person. Maybe you've envied them. That complete, unshakable stillness. While everyone around them is reacting, spiraling, defending, they just breathe. Here's the thing nobody tells you. That's not a personality trait. That's a skill. And you can build it. This video is about exactly that. By the end, you'll understand why you lose control of your emotions, what's actually happening in your brain when you do, and, most importantly, the Stoic framework that rewires the whole system. Stay with me. Every chapter matters. Let's start with the honest truth most people never say out loud. You are not responding to the world. You are responding to a story about the world. Someone goes quiet in a group chat, and within 30 seconds, your mind has already written a 3-act drama. They're angry. You said something wrong. Something is about to fall apart. And now your chest is tight and your mood is wrecked over a story you invented. That's not weakness. That's neuroscience. Here's what's happening inside your skull. Your brain has a structure called the amygdala. Think of it as your internal alarm system. It was designed for survival. In the ancient world, it kept you alive by triggering a fear response before your conscious mind could even process a threat. But here's the problem. Your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a lion charging at you and a passive-aggressive email from your boss. To your nervous system, both feel like emergencies. Both trigger the same flood of cortisol, the same spike in heart rate, the same narrowing of focus. Neuroscientists call this amygdala hijack, a term coined by psychologist Daniel Goleman. In those moments, your rational prefrontal cortex goes offline. You stop thinking clearly. You react. And the most dangerous part? It happens in 200 milliseconds, faster than a camera flash. Before you've had a single conscious thought, your body has already committed to an emotional response. This is why smart, self-aware people still explode, still shut down, still say things they regret. It's not a character flaw. It's a design feature that was never updated. The Stoics didn't have the word amygdala, but Marcus Aurelius described the exact same mechanism when he wrote that the mind can be its own master or its own worst enemy. They understood that the gap between what happens and how you respond is where your entire life is decided. Now, most people spend their whole lives in that gap without ever knowing it exists. They just call it having a bad day. You're not going to do that anymore. Here is one of the most powerful pieces of neuroscience you will ever hear, and I want you to actually remember it. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor is a Harvard-trained brain scientist who had a stroke at 37. During her recovery, she studied the emotional process from the inside, and here's what she discovered. When an emotion is triggered in the human body, the neurochemical flood, the cortisol, the adrenaline, all of it lasts exactly 90 seconds. 90 seconds. If you do nothing else, if you simply don't add fuel, the chemical storm passes in a minute and a half. What keeps it going? Your thoughts. The story you keep telling yourself about what happened. The meaning you assign, the replay, the projection into the future. Every time you repeat the story, you re-trigger the amygdala, you re-flood the system, and now, what was a 90-second wave has become a 4-hour spiral. This is exactly what the Stoic concept of prohairesis is about. Prohairesis, the faculty of choice. Epictetus, who was enslaved for most of his life and had every reason to be consumed by bitterness, taught that the only thing truly in our power is our own faculty of judgment, not what happens, not what others do, only what we choose to do with the thought. He wasn't saying emotions are bad. He was saying, don't re-trigger them on purpose by feeding them a story they don't deserve. The science backs him up 2,000 years later. The practice is simple. When something hits you, when the spike comes, you have a 90-second window. Breathe into it. Don't add narrative. Let the chemistry clear. After 90 seconds, what you feel next is a choice. Most people don't know that. Now you do. This is the part people don't want to talk about because it's uncomfortable. Your emotional reactivity is profitable for other people? Think about that for a second. Social media platforms are not designed to make you calm. They are designed to keep you engaged. And what drives engagement at the deepest neurological level? Not joy, not peace. Outrage, comparison, fear of missing out. Every algorithm on every platform you use is optimized to find the content that spikes your cortisol just enough to keep you scrolling, but not enough to make you close the app. You are being played, systematically, at scale. But it goes deeper than social media. From the moment you were a child, you were conditioned by social feedback loops. When you cried, people responded. When you got angry, people paid attention. When you performed certain emotions, sadness, excitement, anxiety, you got reactions, validation, outcomes. Psychologists call this operant conditioning. Your emotional reactions were reinforced over thousands of small moments until they became automatic. And the result? Most adults are running emotional software that was installed before they were 10 years old. Unexamined, unquestioned, running in the background, controlling your responses, while you think you're making conscious choices. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the collection of unconscious drives, fears, and conditioned reactions that operate below awareness. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This isn't just philosophy. Behavioral science confirms it. Studies on implicit emotional conditioning show that adults respond to triggers in ways that mirror childhood patterns, even when they consciously believe they've moved past them. The person who shuts down every time they feel criticized learned that as a child. The person who gets defensive the moment someone questions their competence learned that too. None of this is your fault, but once you see it, it becomes your responsibility. The Stoics were obsessed with this. They called it self-examination, not as therapy, but as daily practice. The nightly ritual of asking, where did I lose control today? Where did I react instead of choose? Awareness doesn't fix the pattern overnight, but it's the only thing that ever fixes it. Now we get practical. 3 tools, grounded in both Stoic philosophy and modern behavioral science. Not theories, daily practices. The first weapon, the name and claim. When an emotion spikes, most people merge with it. They don't have anger. They become angry. There's a critical difference. Neuroscientists at UCLA ran studies on affect labeling, the simple practice of putting a name to what you feel. They found that when subjects labeled their emotion, I'm feeling anxious right now, this is irritation, activity in the amygdala dropped measurably just from naming it. Why? Because naming an emotion activates the prefrontal cortex. It pulls you out of the reactive loop and into observational mode. You can't be controlled by something you're watching from a distance. This is what Stoics called the observer within, the part of you that can watch the emotion without being it. Practice. The next time you feel something spike, don't follow the feeling. Name it first, out loud if you can. I notice irritation. I notice anxiety. That tiny pause is a small act of reclaiming your mind. The second weapon, negative visualization. This sounds dark. It isn't. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, premeditation of adversity. Marcus Aurelius did it every morning, imagining setbacks, losses, disruptions, not to be pessimistic, but to build emotional resilience in advance. Modern psychology calls this stress inoculation training, and elite military units and athletes use it to prepare for high-pressure situations. By mentally rehearsing difficulty, you reduce the brain's surprise response when difficulty actually arrives. The research is clear. Anticipated stress activates a smaller amygdala response than unexpected stress. In plain language, the things that blindside you hurt more than the things you've prepared for. A 5-minute morning practice of asking, what could go wrong today, and how would I want to respond, primes your prefrontal cortex before the amygdala even has a chance to fire. The third weapon? The values audit. Most emotional reactivity is driven by something underneath the surface. An ego that needs protecting. A fear that needs hiding. An identity that feels threatened. When someone cuts you off in traffic and your blood boils, what's really being triggered? It's not the traffic. It's a story about respect, about your time, about whether you matter. The Stoics asked constantly, what do I actually value? And more importantly, is this worth my peace? Psychologist Stephen Hayes, founder of acceptance and commitment therapy, found that people who have clearly defined values show significantly more emotional regulation under pressure than those who don't. Because when your values are clear, the noise gets smaller. You know what matters and what doesn't. The practice. Write down 3 things you genuinely value. Not what you're supposed to value. What you actually value. Peace, deep connection, meaningful work, whatever it is. Now, the next time something triggers you, ask, is this reaction aligned with my values? Or is it just my ego protecting itself? That question alone can stop a spiral before it starts. Here's what nobody talks about when they talk about emotional control. It's not just about not getting angry. It's about what opens up when you're not wasting energy on things that don't deserve it. Every time you react to something meaningless, every petty argument you join, every spiral you follow, every insult you replay, you are spending from a finite account. Psychologists call it ego depletion. Your capacity for rational decision-making is a limited resource. It drains throughout the day. Every unnecessary emotional response accelerates the drain. The person who spends their morning stewing over a passive-aggressive comment has less cognitive capacity for the meeting at noon, less patience for the people they love in the evening, less willpower to make the choice they know is right at midnight. Emotional reactivity isn't just painful, it's expensive, and the inverse is equally true. When you stop bleeding energy on things that don't matter, you accumulate something rare. Clarity, presence, depth. The people around you start to feel it. There's something different about someone who isn't trying to win every micro argument. who doesn't need to explain themselves constantly, who can sit in silence without it being threatening? That stillness communicates strength in a way words never can. Research in social psychology on status signaling consistently shows that calm, non-reactive behavior is interpreted by others as high status and competent. Regardless of title or wealth, the person who doesn't flinch is perceived as the person who has nothing to prove. And that perception becomes reality. Because when you stop living inside the reactive loop, when you're not chasing validation, not defending your ego, not performing for approval, you actually become the thing people perceive you to be: strong, grounded, free. Marcus Aurelius, who governed the largest empire on earth while simultaneously fighting off wars, plagues, and political betrayal, wrote this in his private journal, a journal never meant to be published. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He wasn't writing it for posterity. He was writing it to remind himself every single day. Because even the most disciplined man in history needed the reminder. So do we. Here is what I want you to walk away with. Emotional mastery is not a destination. It's a daily practice, a series of small choices made in small moments that nobody else sees. It's the choice to breathe before you text back. It's the choice to name the emotion instead of becoming it. It's the choice to ask, does this align with what I value, before you spend your peace on something that doesn't deserve it. None of these choices are dramatic, but compounded over months and years, they build something that cannot be bought, inherited, or faked. An inner life that is genuinely yours. Quiet, clear, unshakable. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Not as resignation, not as passivity, as a decision about where to direct the force of your attention. Because attention is the only currency that matters, and every moment you give it to something unworthy is a moment you can't reclaim. You have been handed something today, a framework, a set of tools. What you do with it is yours to decide. But if you come back to this video on a hard day, when the noise is loud and the spiral is pulling, let it remind you, the pause is where your power lives, and nothing out there controls you unless you hand it the controls. Save this, come back when you need it, and if someone you care about is stuck in the reactive loop, send it to them. They might not know they need it yet, but they do.